Hi guys, Jordan from B&B Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your Miller. It's an Oklahoma. I think the actual name of it is States Oklahoma. So under the bonnet here, got your engine battery over here on the left hand side. I'll just put that back on there quickly. Engine battery sits over here on the left hand side. You've got your negative terminal at the front, positive down the back. Brake fluid attached to the brake servo just down the back there. Engine oil goes in through this top cap here, and your engine oil dipstick is this yellow top one just down here. Power steering fluid, and there you can't really see, well you can a little bit I suppose, just there at the maximum line. That's absolutely perfect, and it should be a nice dark red colour. There you go. So power steering fluid just there. Engine coolant is this one just up here, and again you can see the engine is cold at the moment and it's sat perfectly just there at the maximum line. And your washer fluid sits inside this reservoir just here, and you probably can't tell but it is completely full up. Your chassis plate is here, so 3,400 for this one, so you're underneath the weight limit, 3.5. Diesel filling point is this one just here. You do actually need to lock that up. I'll just do that quickly, whichever way that might be. Lock position, there you go. So that's your diesel point. To get that open, you do literally just push on this and that opens it up like that. Inside the passenger door, there's not really very much to show you, to be honest. It's you've got a little fuse box behind here, and exactly the same on the other side. You've got the same, it looks exactly the same as this, but you've got a fuse box here and a fuse box over there. All to do with the engine stuff. That's all Fiat stuff. There's nothing to do with the actual motorhome itself, just the van, glove box in there. But other than that, like I said, there's not really much to show you in regards to the passenger side. Right, so carry on the near side. Freshwater inlet point is this one just here, and every once in a while it's always a good sort of practice to keep this lubricated, the rubber seal in here. If you've got like some kind of silicon lubricant, it's really helpful to use that every once in a while. Otherwise you do tend to get a little bit stiff, and it is a bit stiff now, so there you go. Two fridge vents just here. I've got the fridge lit up on gas at the moment, and because of the style of vent you can't really tell by the heat on these ones, but if you wanted to get to the back of the fridge, you literally just this one this way, this one this way, and then the whole thing will just pop off. Just make sure that you tighten them back on if you ever need to. Right, you've got a freshwater drain just over here, so you literally just pull this out and that'll drain out your fresh water. Just want to make sure that's right. Yep, pretty sure it is. Look at that. Or actually, let me just get under there and have a look, because I actually think, oh no, okay, so this is actually your waste drain. So if I pull this lever out now, oh, it is already out. So right, so this tank underneath here is your wastewater drain. So the reason I know that is because I've got this pipe running through to it here, and I can see that it goes right the way to the back of the van, so that'll be the shower one. The freshwater drain is probably from this pipe just here, and you can probably get to it from the inside of the vehicle, so I'll have a look for that in a minute. But this here is your wastewater drain, so pulling this out drains out the wastewater. Just wanted to make sure I just got that right before I set it on video. Toilet cassette locker, this one here. So taking the cassette out, literally lift up on this little yellow tab here, pull the whole thing out. All you need to know really is that you drain it out from here, and when you're actually draining it out, you should be holding down the little yellow button at the back. Put it all the way back in like that. You've got a freshwater flush, so you haven't got to worry about any separate flush fluid up top or anything like that. And whenever you're finished with the locker, close it over like that. Key goes in. Again, I need to lubricate that a little bit, but key goes in, turn it, take it out, and then you can't open that up. Bike rack at the back, and your reversing camera up there, which works really, really well. Huge amount of storage just inside here, and you can see the brackets there that are holding on your bike rack. Spare wheel and your jack and wheel brace are also in here as well. The boiler vent is this one just here. I've got the boiler lit up on gas at the moment so that I can show you the hot water working and things like that. And so to make sure that you definitely have that lit up, you can put your hand underneath this vent, and I can feel so much hot air coming out through that. You can actually see the water building up, little condensation bits. And if you see this here, just underneath here, you can't really do anything about this because every time that you use the boiler, it will keep happening. There's not much you can do about it. It's just condensation building up here and then dripping down. So, to be honest, all motorhomes really that with this style of boiler vent do have this marking underneath it. So, yeah, that's about it really. I can't really do much about it. Gas locker, so you've got your refillable gas in here. The actual refill point is this one down here. So that's at your petrol station or wherever you can get the refillable gas. Turning the bottles on is anti-clockwise around to the left. So they are both on at the moment because I've got everything lit up. You've got a little sort of changeover valve just here, so as long as you put both of these on, you can just leave them both on basically. When one runs out, it'll just, well, it basically uses them both at the same time essentially. But yeah, so you got a little thing telling you there, if it's green like that, it means that there is pressurized gas just there. And if it was red, it means that you've got the gas off and it's not. When you turn the bottles off initially, that will stay green for a little while until the rest of the gas just sort of slowly seeps away or gets used up. So when you initially turn them off, it'll stay green, but when you next get to the van, it'll probably be red again. So yeah, you don't have to worry about any of this stuff here. Literally all you need to worry about is turning the bottle off, which is clockwise around to the right, the bottles. Turn them both off before you start driving, for obvious reasons really, but I will mention it in a minute. I'll leave them on for a minute. Pull down on this little lever here, and that allows you to move your D-bar, and it will lock in the middle and also across, so that if you have the door closed, you can use it as a lock as well as, a bit awkward with one hand, as well as a handle to get in. Behind that, you've got your hookup point, which looks like it's a new one. So if you had a hookup cable plugged in, that's where you go in for that. And you've got a little clip at the bottom just to stop it from flapping around when you're driving. I'll leave that across like that at the moment. Door catch at the top also looks new, so it does actually clip in really nice and strong. Yeah, so I think that's about it for the motorhome side of things. In the cab, you've got a nice spec in the cab really. To be honest, this age of vehicle, the chassis did tend to be a little bit more basic than the newer ones, but you know, a bit more reliable in my opinion. Less electronics and things like that, but 5-speed manual gearbox. Reverse, you have to lift up on this little bit just here in order to get it up and over to there. Lights are all on this left-hand stalk, so side lights, main beam, as well as your flash and indicators. Washers and wipers on this right-hand side. Electric adjusting mirrors, so you've got top right and bottom right mirror, as well as obviously the left as well. And then when you've chosen which one you want to move, you just move it like a joystick and get it to where you want it. Headlight aim is electronic on these ones as well, so you can adjust those if you want to. You'd normally leave it on 0 or 1, but if you were towing something, it can bring the front of the van up a little bit, so you need to aim them down basically. But there you go, that's up to you. Reversing camera, that obviously just comes on when your ignition's on, so it doesn't drain out your battery at all. Hazard lights, just there in the middle, and all of your fan controls. You can work that sort of stuff out. It's all nice and simple. Yeah, so if you wanted the fan to be on as well, they've obviously, someone's put that fan on there at some point. I would imagine the wire probably comes around here and into one of these two, because I don't think there's any power on this side. But yeah, this is the other cover I was saying about as well. So you've got another fuse box behind here. But you know, if you should ever need, if you do get any problems like that, then you can just get in contact with us obviously. But I just thought I'd point out to you that's where they are. So normally, like for example, if your lights stopped working, or the 12-volt power points here stopped working or something like that, it'll be one of the fuses inside there. So you can have a little look for yourself if you fancy it. Right, so your leisure battery and things sit underneath here, as well as some fuses and bits and pieces for the back end of the vehicle. Underneath here, you got what looks like a secondary battery in there as well. Whoop. Freshwater tank will be under here. If I should have done this before the video started really, but we have a little look under here. So, can't see anything just there, but if I look down the back here. Right, so, I don't know if you can see, if I just go on my zoom a little bit, a little black dial down there, a little lever. So if you turned that so that it was facing in line with the pump, with the pipe, sorry, that would drain all of your fresh water out onto the floor. So that's your freshwater drain just down there. Where you fill the water up is that pipe just there, and your water pump is there as well. So if you did need to get anything water related, or get to anything water related, it's all just there. I'll leave these here just for a minute and put them back after the video. Right, so above the door when you jump in, you got really nice, clearly laid out control panel. On the right hand side, you've got a test switch. So when you push and hold on that, it shows you leisure battery voltage, freshwater level, and if your wastewater's full, that will light up there as well. So wastewater is not full because I showed you outside, it's nearly empty, or it is empty. Freshwater is basically empty as well, and your leisure battery is nearly full. There you go. So that's how you test all of your levels just there. Pump, this is to do with your fridge, but you basically just turn that on with everything else. When you turn everything on to get into the van, pump, that one there in the middle, and your lights switch there. So basically when you get into the van, if you want to use it properly, turn all three of those on, and then you can go ahead and do whatever you like basically. All of your lights will work as soon as you turn that light switch on there. So you've got these lights over the top of the cupboards, that's from this switch just here, and just various lights dotted around all over the place really. There's switches galore for light switches, you'll find all of them out for yourself. The bathroom one, if I just try and remember, because I came through and cleaned it the other day, but I can't remember exactly where the switch is. But yeah, like I said, you'll find all the switches. There are switches everywhere really, but you'll pretty quickly work out where they all are. Right, so grill over the top here. Obviously this is gas only, and you've also got a piezo igniter. So pushing in like that, I know it sounds a bit noisy, but that is just how the piezos are. You've got a light in the back, but basically all you need to do is, I'll just see if I can do it with one hand, turn this to the gas symbol there. At the moment when you turn it like that, there's no gas coming through until you poke the button in. So push the button in and it lights up first go. Give it a blow, just to make sure you light up the other side. That's it. So pushing and holding on that, just let it go now. So that's just stayed on. If you can see a little flame at the very, very back just there, where it's flickering a little bit, that means that the flame is working and it's lit up on the other side as well, because it's the same on the other side as it is here. So you need to make sure that that goes all the way to the end and then goes sort of back round again to make sure that it's definitely lit up on both sides. That's why I gave it a little blow there, to just to sort of get the oxygen flowing around the back. Turn it off. Obviously bear in mind that you do need to leave this window open when you're using the grill if you are going to use it. But there you go. The cooker, or the hobs, you do need an igniter of some description to light any of these up, because there's no ignition whatsoever. If there was going to be an igniter, there'd be a little switch just here somewhere. Yeah, any kind of lighter or something like that, a long reach one usually is what you'd have, will work on these perfectly fine. And you've got a little diagram showing you exactly which one of these does which. You've got a thermocouple on each of these, which is a little prong of metal just here at the back. And essentially what that does is every sort of gas appliance in this entire motorhome, and actually all motorhomes, has got one of these on it. So your boiler's got one, your fridge has got one, etc. What it does, if I lit this burner up here, I'd light it up like that with the clicker, the flame would come on, and what would happen is the thermocouple will recognise that it's lit, and then when you let go of this, the gas will continue to pump through and it'll be still burning. If I had this window open and the wind blew the flame out, obviously the gas will just carry on pumping through, but what a thermocouple does is it recognises that there's no more flame there anymore, and that actually it's just the pure gas coming through, and it stops the gas from coming through. So as long as your thermocouple's working, it's impossible to fill the van up with unburned gas. All right, so that's why when you turn, I could turn all of these like this to their on position, but they won't do anything at all because the thermocouple has stopped any gas coming through these now, because there's no flame, there's no gas coming through now until I push the button in and then go to light it up. All right, that's that. Just thought I'd quickly run you through that. Other thing, the glass lids are specially made glass and they are very, very strong, but if you light any of these burners up and then close the lid down as soon as you turn them off, I can guarantee you that this will shatter, because of the fact that the top of the thing will be cold and underneath is red hot. They will just break. So you need to make sure that you allow these to cool down at least a little bit before putting the lid down, because I have seen these shattered plenty of times. So just make sure that you leave it to cool down a little bit first. The fridge is nice and simple. I have it lit up on gas at the moment. Let me just get down on my knees so I can show you properly. I have it lit on gas at the moment, and the way that you know that is because one, it's here facing this little gas symbol, and two, the little gauge there, I don't know if you can see it, the gauge is right up the top in the green. So if I turn this off, all I'm going to do is turn this to here, all right, and watch that gauge. And it'll slowly go down as it cools down, basically. It might take a little while to cool down, but that's what will happen. When you turn it off, turn the gas off there, the gauge will go down as it cools. You can see there, going down now. So that's how that works. Essentially, all that happens is when you turn this on to here, to the gas, an igniter starts at the back, and then all you have to do is push in on here and then wait for that gauge to go back up to the green. And that's it. So it's going up. I can let go of this now. As long as it keeps on going up and it goes to the very top, you know that the gas is lit up. So that's how you use it on gas. If you wanted to use it on electric hookup, so if your electric hookup's plugged in, you could go to here, and that's all you need to do. Literally, as long as there's a hookup plugged in, put it to this one here, and the electric hookup's element will start to warm up and then in turn cool the fridge down. And if your engine was running and you were driving, you'd go to here, to the 12 volt one, and then same kind of idea. But yeah, same sort of idea, but essentially you get a 12 volt element in the back that heats up instead of a 240 volt one. So back off there. The idea really is, or the way that you have to use these fridges are, because the 12 volt element isn't big enough to get the fridge cold by itself, what you have to do is you either get the fridge cold first via the gas or the electric, so the 240 volt electric, your hookup, and then you have to switch over to 12 volt just for when your engine is running only. So the 12 volt one keeps the fridge cold, but it doesn't get the fridge cold on its own. Freezer box inside there. But yeah, so what I would always recommend, so that's off now because it's in the off position. What I would recommend, if you're going to go away tomorrow morning, for example, I would recommend putting the fridge on gas or electric tonight, the night before you go away, and then the next morning everything inside the fridge will be cold, and then all you have to do is just switch over to the 12 volt for when you're driving. So that's what I find to be the best way, because to be honest, the fridges, they can take between sort of 3, 4, 5 hours to get fully cold. So if you imagine if you get a new fridge at home, when you first plug it in, it doesn't just get cold in half an hour. It'll be, you know, hours before it actually gets cold. It's exactly the same idea here, but slightly different, obviously, because you don't really tend to keep a motorhome fridge on all the time. It's normally just for when you go away. So they do take a few hours to get cold, so that's why I recommend the night before you go. Storage in here, and kind of like a homemade cutlery drawer as well. I want to show you in here because you've got a couple of gas isolators. So you've got hob, fridge, boiler, and I would imagine this one at the top here is going to be for your grill. So if you wanted to isolate any of the gas appliances from in the vehicle, you'd go here and isolate them from here. All you have to do is turn them 90 degrees, as long as they're not facing the pipe that they're going off to. So you can see at the moment they're all facing in line with the pipe that they're going to. So if you isolate it, turn it 90 degrees, it's then facing away from this pipe. The only reason you would ever do that is if you were really worried and you thought there was a gas leak or something like that. It's really not necessary to do for any other reason. I have seen it in the past where people, anytime they get out the van, they turn all the gas isolators off, but it's completely pointless. Just turning the gas bottles off does the exact same thing. It just isolates everything at once instead of isolating them individually. So if you are worried about everything, just turn your bottles off. If you turn your bottles off, no gas is getting into the inside of the vehicle. But it is only if, like, for example, if you're on holiday and you thought, oh god, the fridge is playing up on gas, you can literally just go to here, isolate the fridge one, and then forget about it and worry about it when you get back home. So that's what they're there for, if you ever need them, but you shouldn't ever really need them, to be honest. Right, I've left this bit to sort of towards the end, sorry, because it's a little bit awkward to explain. When you go to use the boiler, for any reason really, you have to make sure that it's full of water. If the boiler's empty and you light it up to heat the water up, what will happen is it's exactly the same idea as if you turn a kettle on with no water inside of it. If you turn a kettle on with no water inside it, it will just get way too hot, overheat, and probably catch fire and burn. Which sounds a bit dramatic, I know, but that is essentially what you're doing. So you have to make sure the boiler is full of water before you do anything down there on the boiler controls. And I just want to show you how to do that. So pump goes on, and assuming that you need a bit more water than I've got at the moment, but as soon as you've got a little bit of water in the fresh tank, you're okay. So the pump's on at the moment, and also the fact that the pump's on and it's not running and running and running proves to you and to me that there's no leaks anywhere. If I had the pump switched on and the pump was just running and running and running and none of the taps were on, that would mean that there's a leak somewhere, or that there's not enough water in the tank. So anyway, pump on, come to the tap and just pour the cold water through, so that's to the right, and then the hot. So the water's coming through, and I don't know if you can see, but it's actually red hot already. Probably can't tell. There is a little bit of steam coming off it, but you can't tell on the video. That's all you have to do. So me pulling the pump just there, pulling the tap, sorry, on hot and cold, and the water coming through nice and clearly, the pump turns itself off afterwards. That means the boiler's full. If I pulled the hot water through with the pump on, the pump comes on and no water comes out through the tap, it either means that the boiler is completely empty or you've not got enough water in the tank at all. So if you've got enough water in the tank and no water comes through the tap on the hot side, it means that your boiler is filling itself up, okay? And you just have to wait until the water comes through, exactly how you just saw it then. Once you've seen it coming through like that, that's all you have to do. You can forget about it, go and do whatever you like with the boiler, it's fine, but that's the only thing you have to do. So, I will explain why that is, by the way. But, so down here, you've got this little vent down, so I don't know if you can see it. The little red pull button there, so this one here. At the moment, it's pulled up, and that means that the boiler is going to take any water that you give it and not drain anything out. If I pushed it down, the water would just drain out straight onto the floor. So that one you've got in there is a newer style boiler. The one that you've got there is an automatic dropout valve. So if the temperature gets to kind of, I don't know, sort of 0, 1, 2 degrees, that will drop out any water that's inside the boiler. It will just push down and drop out all the water. The reason for that is if the boiler is full of water and pressurized water as well, so it's completely full, if the water inside there freezes because you're not using the van for any reason, if it freezes, that boiler will be absolutely knackered because all the water will expand as it freezes and crack everything, and there'll be leaks all over the place. So that's why you've got an automatic dropout. If you forget to drop it out yourself by pushing the button down, it will do it for you. Sometimes it can be frustrating because you can go to the van to use it and find there's no water in the boiler. But all you have to do for that is put your heating on for about 5 or 10 minutes, which I'll show you how to do in a minute. And then when you go to lift that up, it should stay up. But other than that, that's all you need to do. You just need to make sure that you remember, make sure the boiler's full before you turn it on by doing the tap thing. And also make sure that you drop the boiler out if it gets to that sort of low temperature. It will do it by itself anyway, but just double check it. So if you want to use the boiler, up one, where it is just here, is hot water at 40 degrees. And up two, just there, is hot water at 60 degrees. So that's all just hot water only. Going up is hot water only. So if I go back down to the middle, that's off. If I go down one, you've got heating only. And down two is heating and hot water. So anytime that you've got the little amber light there on the left hand side, that means that the water is being heated up. So if I go one up again to heating only, there's no amber light, but the green light stays on. So it's heating only. So the heating will just start pumping out through these little circular vents dotted around the vehicle. And then after about 20 minutes or so, your van will be nice and warm. But that's how that's all it is really. Some people remember it as summer setting goes up because you've got no heating, but you have got hot water. And winter setting is down because you've got heating or heating and hot water at the same time. Alright, so that's all there. That's all those dials out of there. In the wardrobe, you've got all of your paperwork for the van, and that is full up. So lots of nice paperwork in there, and your 240 volt trip switch. So if, for example, the you plug something dodgy into a plug socket in here or whatever, that's where it would trip from. So check in there if you don't get any power working when you plug in on the mains. And the bathroom is the last bit really. So it's all nice and simple stuff. I won't show you how the shower or the sink works because that's self-explanatory. And also I'll get soaked if I use the shower, so it's no good. All I need to show you really is the toilet, I think. So it's simple. All you got to do is push the button down. That pumps around your flush fluid inside. If I just show you what that looks like. Like that. I would advise you close the lid before you open the flap here. But open the flap, drains it out into the cassette. So you can see the flap's open and it's all draining into the cassette. And then close it back over. That's it. That's all you have to do to use that toilet. The only thing I'll point out is you do have to make sure that you close that flap over whenever you're finished, because one, if you don't close the flap over, you will not be able to take the cassette out from outside because it will then be locked in place. And also, it's just disgusting to leave the flap open basically, because all of the whatever goes into the toilet, into the cassette, if you leave that flap open, you just open to the elements straight away. It just comes straight back into the van. So make sure that you close that flap back over when you're done. Other than that, getting the van ready to leave, make sure all your skylights are down. So wind them all back down. Well, that's the wrong way. Wind them all back down, more like. All the way down. And just sort of nip it up with your hand a little bit. Same with this one here. Just nip it up a little bit. Skylights down. Make sure all of your window catches are closed and locked. Make sure that your doors are crossed, and if you want to use that D bar as a little extra lock, you can do that. Make sure that your gas is switched off inside the locker, that's a definite, and just go around turning your power off like that. You want to make sure really as well, purely for the fact that it's really annoying, make sure all these things like this are all down. Make sure your cupboards are closed and the buttons are locked like that, because the first thing you'll notice is how noisy motorhomes can be, and there's plenty of ways to stop that from happening. I mean, if you're going to store things in everywhere, you need to buy, we don't need to, but you should buy like non-slip mats and things like that, because the noise that these things make when you drive along is unbelievable. But you know, they're built to comfortably do it, but if you don't put non-slip mats everywhere, it does get noisy. So it's just a, you know, an idea basically. Make sure everything's tight, everything's down, and if you are going to be using the fridge, make sure that you've turned it over to the 12-volt symbol just before you start driving off. And also, obviously, when you get to where you're going, you have to turn back to one of the other two. But you get the grips of that in no time at all. But there you go. So if there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.